Have you ever looked up at the evening sky and wondered why the moon always seems to arrive just after the sun has gone? Some say it is simply the way the heavens were made. Others say it is the work of time itself. But here, among the old villages of Africa, our elders tell a different story, a story older than the oldest kingdom, older than the tallest mountain, older than even this ancient baobab tree beneath which we sit tonight. Come closer, my children. The fire is warm, the night is long, and legends should never be told from far away. Tonight, I will tell you why. The moon still follows the sun, not because she must, but because long ago she made a promise, and some promises are too powerful to be broken. Long before cities rose from the earth, before kings wore golden crowns, before people divided the land with fences and roads, the world was young. The rivers sang louder, the forests stretched farther than the eye could see. Animals spoke the same language as people. The wind carried stories from one village to another. And every morning, the earth awoke beneath a blanket of golden light. For in those days, the sun did not live in the sky. He walked upon the earth, tall, strong. His robes shimmered like fresh gold beneath the morning light. Wherever he stepped, flowers lifted their heads. Cold mornings became warm. Children laughed louder. Birds began their songs. The world itself seemed happier whenever he smiled. Yet, for all his strength, the sun never walked alone. Beside him, always, was the moon. She was gentle where he was bold, quiet where he was loud, patient where he was quick to act. She wore flowing silver robes that glowed softly even beneath the daylight. Animals trusted her. Children ran toward her. Even the oldest elephants lowered their heads in respect whenever she passed. Together, they traveled from village to village, bringing warmth by day, comfort by night, and hope wherever they went. The people loved them both, not because they ruled, but because they served. If a roof collapsed, the sun helped rebuild it. If a child cried, the moon would kneel beside them until laughter returned. If crops failed, they worked beside the farmers until the fields smiled green once more. Every evening, after the day's work was done, they would sit quietly outside their humble home, watching the great river flow past. Its waters shimmered like polished glass beneath the fading light. And every evening, the river came to visit. The river never traveled alone. Every evening, just as the sky began dressing itself in shades of orange and crimson, the river came. Not merely as flowing water, but as an ancient spirit, older than memory, older than the hills, older than the songs that mothers sang to their children. When the river wished to visit, its spirit rose gently from the water. He appeared as a tall elder wrapped in robes woven from flowing streams. His beard shimmered like waterfalls beneath the evening sun. Tiny silver fish danced around his feet wherever he walked. The earth itself seemed to welcome him. The grasses bowed, the reeds whispered. Even the birds grew quiet. The sun would rise from his seat with a broad smile. "My old friend," he would say, "you have returned." The river would laugh. His laughter sounded like water dancing over smooth stones. "And you still greet me as though we met only yesterday." The moon would prepare warm palm nut soup, roasted yams, fresh fruits, and cool calabashes filled with sweet spring water. The three friends would sit beneath the great iroko tree beside the riverbank. They spoke of everything, of the changing seasons, of migrating birds, of newborn elephants learning to walk, of forests growing stronger after the rains. Sometimes they simply listened, for silence, when shared among true friends, needs no words. Night after night, season after season, year after year, their friendship grew stronger. Creatures from every corner of the land admired them. The gazelles often paused nearby to listen. Monkeys hung quietly from tree branches. Even the proud lions rested peacefully whenever the three friends gathered. It seemed nothing could ever disturb such perfect harmony. But one evening, As the last rays of sunlight rested upon the river's gentle surface, the ancient spirit became unusually quiet. The moon noticed first. "My friend," she asked softly, "your heart seems heavy tonight." The river smiled, but it was a tired smile. "There is something I have wished to ask for many years." The sun leaned forward eagerly. "Then ask it." The river looked toward their beautiful home. It was simple. Its walls were built from polished clay. Its roof was woven from strong raffia. Bright flowers surrounded every doorway. Children often stopped to admire it during their travels. "I have visited your home countless evenings," the river said. "You have always welcomed me with kindness." He paused. "But you have never invited me to visit your house." The sun laughed warmly. "My friend, why should you wait for an invitation? You are welcome at any time." The moon smiled too. "Our home is your home." For the first time that evening, the river did not smile. Instead, he lowered his eyes. "I fear," he began carefully, "that you do not understand." The breeze seemed to slow. Leaves stopped rustling. Even the insects grew strangely silent. The river lifted his head. "When I travel, I never travel alone." The sun frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" The river stretched out one hand toward the flowing water. "My children go wherever I go." The sun looked toward the river. He saw only tiny fish swimming peacefully. He chuckled. "Then bring them." The river slowly shook his head. "You see only the little ones. My family is much larger than you imagine. The fish will come. So will the turtles, the crocodiles, the catfish, the frogs, the crabs, the hippos, the reeds, the lilies, the currents, and all the waters that carry them." He looked directly into the sun's eyes. "If I enter your home, I must bring every life that belongs to me." The moon's smile slowly faded. She understood. The river was not warning them because he wished to refuse their kindness. He was trying to protect them. She glanced toward their little home. Though beautiful, it stood only a short distance from the riverbank. Built for two, not for an entire river. The moon gently placed her hand upon the sun's arm. "My love, perhaps we should think carefully." But the sun looked around proudly. He had built the strongest home in all the land. Its foundations rested upon solid earth. Its walls had weathered countless storms. He smiled with confidence. "Our house is strong. If friendship cannot cross its doorway, then what good is strength?" The river remained silent. He had lived longer than mountains. He knew that pride often speaks louder than wisdom. Yet he also knew that every lesson must be learned in its own time. He slowly rose to his feet. "Very well. If you are certain, I shall visit." He bowed respectfully. "But remember, I will come exactly as I am, and I never travel alone." With those words, the river's spirit slowly dissolved into shimmering water once more. The ripples spread gently across the surface. Then, everything became still. The moon watched the quiet river long after darkness had covered the land. A feeling she could not explain settled deep within her heart. The stars began appearing one by one. The wind carried a strange whisper through the trees. And somewhere in the distance, an old owl called into the night. The moon looked toward the sky, then back toward the silent river. She did not know why, but for the first time in many years, she felt that tomorrow would change the world forever. The next morning, the world awoke as it always had. Golden sunlight spilled gently across the hills. Birds filled the forests with cheerful songs. Children chased butterflies through fields of tall grass. Women pounded yam while laughing together. Hunters prepared their bows. Farmers greeted the earth with hopeful hands. Everything seemed perfectly ordinary. Yet deep inside, the moon could not shake the feeling that had followed her through the night. She stood quietly outside their home, watching the river, watching the gentle current, watching the morning mist rise from its surface. The sun stepped outside carrying his wooden staff. He noticed the worry in her eyes. "You did not sleep." The moon smiled softly. I slept, but my heart did not. The sun wrapped an arm around her shoulders. Our friend would never harm us. I know, she answered. It is not the river I fear. The sun tilted his head. Then what troubles you? She looked toward the calm water. Sometimes, even kindness can become too much for one home to carry. The sun looked at their little house. Its walls stood firm. Its roof had never leaked. Its foundation rested upon strong stone. He smiled confidently. Our home was built with love, and love always makes room. The moon wished she shared his certainty. Before she could answer, a low sound echoed across the valley. It was unlike anything anyone had ever heard. Not thunder, not wind, not drums. It was water, moving, growing, calling. The birds stopped singing. Monkeys climbed to the highest branches. The elephants lifted their trunks into the air. Even the lions stood motionless. Every creature turned toward the river. The surface began to rise. Not violently, not suddenly, slowly, gracefully, like a giant drawing a deep breath. The river had come. His spirit rose once more from the shimmering water. He smiled warmly. My friends, I have kept my promise. The sun stepped forward happily. And we have kept ours. You are welcome. The river bowed. Then allow me to enter. The front door swung open. The river crossed the threshold. At first, nothing happened. The moon almost laughed at herself. Perhaps she had worried for nothing. Then, a tiny silver fish swam through the doorway. It splashed happily across the smooth floor. Another followed. Then another. Soon dozens of little fish filled the house. They darted between stools and cooking pots as though the home itself had become part of the river. The sun laughed. You see? There is plenty of room. The river smiled gently. I have only just arrived. Outside, the river continued rising. Soon, turtles appeared. They crawled quietly through the doorway. Large river crabs followed. Tiny frogs hopped inside. Colorful kingfishers fluttered through the windows before settling on the roof beams. The little house buzzed with life. The moon stepped carefully between the growing crowd of creatures. She still smiled, but now, her smile carried concern. The water reached her ankles. The sun looked down, then back at the river. It will stop soon, won't it? The river did not answer. Instead, he lowered his eyes. Far beyond the trees, the earth began to tremble. A deep rumble rolled across the valley. The villagers climbed onto nearby rocks. Animals scattered toward higher ground. The riverbank disappeared beneath rising water. Then, they saw them. Massive catfish gliding through the current. Great crocodiles moving silently like floating logs. Hundreds of turtles. Countless schools of fish. Otters, waterbirds, crabs, snakes. Everything that belonged to the river was coming home with him. The doorway disappeared beneath the rising water. The windows became rivers of their own. The little house was no longer standing beside the river. It had become part of it. The sun finally understood. His confident smile faded. The moon gently reached for his hand. Neither of them spoke. Neither needed to. The river looked at them with deep sadness. I warned you. It was never my wish to bring trouble. But I cannot leave my family behind. The water climbed higher, past their knees, past their waists. Furniture floated gently around them. Clay pots drifted across the room. The cooking fire hissed softly before disappearing beneath the flood. Outside, their beautiful flower garden vanished beneath shimmering water. The old mango tree stood only half above the surface. Still, the river never forced his way forward. He simply existed. Every creature that depended upon him followed naturally, because that was the nature of the river. The sun looked around at the home he had built with such pride. For the first time, he realized that strength alone could not hold back the power of nature. The moon squeezed his hand. It is time. The sun closed his eyes, then nodded. Yes, it is time. Outside, the water continued to rise, and above them, The endless blue sky waited in silent stillness. The waters did not stop. They continued rising, patiently, steadily, as though the whole earth had become part of the river's endless journey. The little house disappeared beneath the flood. Only the roof remained above the shimmering water. The sun and the moon climbed onto it together. Below them, the river's family continued arriving. Great hippos surfaced with slow, powerful breaths. Ancient crocodiles drifted silently through the water. Thousands upon thousands of fish glittered beneath the sunlight like living jewels. Water birds circled overhead before settling upon the growing flood. The river watched sadly. My friends, I never wished for this. The sun looked around. There was no anger in his heart, only understanding. No. You only came as yourself. The river bowed his head. The fault is not yours. The fault is mine. I should have refused. The moon gently shook her head. No. A friendship that cannot survive truth was never friendship at all. The river looked into her silver eyes. For the first time, the oldest spirit upon the earth found himself speechless. The waters climbed higher. Soon, even the roof disappeared beneath the flood. The sun looked upward. Far above the clouds, the endless sky stretched beyond imagination. A place no one had ever visited. He tightened his grip on the moon's hand. We climb. The moon nodded. Together, they stepped onto the tallest tree still standing above the water. From branch to branch, they climbed. The flood followed beneath them. Higher they climbed, above the tallest palms, above the mighty iroko trees, above soaring eagles, above drifting clouds. The air grew cool. The earth grew smaller. Below them, the forests became patches of green. The rivers became silver threads. Mountains looked no larger than stones. The moon paused. She looked down. Tears filled her gentle eyes. Our home, she whispered, is gone. The sun turned toward her. His own heart ached, yet his voice remained calm. A home, he said softly, is never only walls. It is wherever those who love one another remain together. The moon smiled through her tears. They continued climbing. Soon, they reached a place where no footsteps had ever touched. A great open sky, silent, endless, waiting. The sun stepped onto it first. Golden light spread beneath his feet. The empty heavens awakened. Warmth filled the sky. Clouds shimmered with brilliant colors. The moon stepped beside him. Where her silver feet touched, the darkness became peaceful instead of empty. Soft light flowed gently across the heavens. The stars had not yet been born. Only silence surrounded them. The moon looked toward the earth far below. So much has changed. The sun placed a comforting hand upon hers. It has. She lowered her eyes. What if, one day, we become separated? The question hung quietly between them. The wind itself seemed to pause. The sun smiled gently. If that day ever comes, he reached toward the horizon. Follow my light. No matter how far I travel, no matter how long the journey, I will always rise again. I will always show you the way. The moon held his hand tightly. And if darkness hides your face, the sun smiled, then trust that I am still there. For even when you cannot see me, I have never truly left. The moon closed her eyes. She placed her hand over her heart. Then hear my promise. As long as I shine, I will follow your path. I will never forget. I will never stop searching. I will never stop following. The heavens grew brighter. The wind carried her words across the endless sky. Even the river heard the promise far below. The ancient spirit smiled peacefully. He knew. The world had changed forever. Just then, the silver cloak resting upon the moon's shoulders fluttered gently in the heavenly breeze. Tiny sparkling lights slipped from its folds. One, then another, then hundreds more. They floated upward before settling across the dark sky like scattered diamonds. The moon gasped softly. My stars! The sun laughed warmly. They wish to stay beside you. The little lights twinkled joyfully around her. Some danced close. Others wandered farther away, yet none ever left her completely. From that day forward, whenever the moon crossed the heavens, her little stars followed, just as she followed the sun. Far below, the floodwaters slowly began to settle. The river returned gently to his ancient path. The forests breathed again. The mountains emerged. New valleys were born. New rivers formed. The earth had survived, but the sun and the moon never returned. Their home was no longer upon the earth. It had become the heavens themselves. And every morning, the sun crossed the sky, keeping his promise to rise once again. Every evening, the moon followed quietly behind, keeping hers. Many seasons passed. The rivers found their paths once again. The forests grew even greener than before. Children were born who had never seen the great flood. Villages rose where the waters had once rested. Life continued, as life always does. Yet every morning, before the first rooster crowed, the people looked toward the eastern horizon. There, the sun appeared, faithful, bright, never late. He crossed the heavens exactly as he had promised, bringing warmth to the earth, helping seeds awaken beneath the soil, drying the morning dew from the leaves, guiding farmers to their fields, leading travelers along dusty roads. Every evening, just as his golden light slipped gently beyond the western hills, another familiar face appeared. The moon. Quiet, patient, faithful, never rushing, never trying to overtake him, always following the path he had promised would lead them home. And beside her, the little stars danced joyfully, like children who refused to let their mother walk alone. The elders smiled whenever they looked toward the heavens, for they remembered, not because they had seen the great flood, but because their own elders had told them the story, and their elders before them. Generation after generation, the legend traveled, not written upon paper, but carried inside living hearts. On cool evenings, when the moonlight rested gently upon the earth, families gathered beneath ancient baobab trees. Grandmothers roasted corn over glowing fires. Grandfathers leaned upon carved walking sticks. Children sat cross-legged, their wide eyes reflecting the dancing flames. One curious child would always ask, "Grandfather, why does the moon always come after the sun?" The old storyteller would smile. He would point toward the sky with slow, weathered hands. Then he would begin. Long before your grandfather's grandfather, before the oldest village was built, before even the lions chose these plains as their home, the sun and the moon lived here upon the earth. The children listened, every single time, though they had heard the story before, because a true legend never grows old. As the old storyteller spoke, the children looked upward. The moon glowed softly above them. The stars shimmered around her. Far beyond them, the sun rested somewhere beneath the world, preparing for another dawn, still keeping his promise, still leading the way, and still the moon followed. Not because she was lost, not because she had nowhere else to go, but because, on the day the waters covered the earth, she had given her word. And in the old traditions of Africa, a promise is not something spoken lightly. Gold may lose its shine, great kingdoms may disappear beneath the dust, the strongest trees may one day fall, even mighty rivers change their course, but an honest promise, made with a sincere heart, can outlive generations. It can outlive mountains. It can outlive time itself. The old storyteller looked around at the children gathered before him. Some had already begun looking toward the moon with new understanding. He smiled, then added one final lesson. My children, the greatest strength is not found in muscles. It is not found in riches. It is not even found in kings. The greatest strength is found in a heart that keeps its word. The fire crackled softly. No child spoke. Even the night insects seemed quieter. Above them, the moon continued her gentle journey. The stars followed faithfully. Far beyond the horizon, the sun prepared to rise again. The old storyteller closed his eyes for a moment. Then, with a voice as gentle as the evening breeze, he spoke the final words of the legend. So whenever you look into the evening sky and see the moon walking quietly behind the sun's path, remember, you are not simply watching the heavens. You are witnessing a promise that has never been broken. The children lifted their eyes one last time. No one hurried home. No one wished to disturb the silence. For in that peaceful moment, the sky itself seemed alive with memory. The fire slowly burned lower. The baobab leaves whispered in the wind. The stars shimmered. The moon smiled. And somewhere beyond the edge of tomorrow, the sun waited patiently for another chance to keep his promise. Because some journeys never truly end, and some promises shine forever.